What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Griever back here, bringing you guys the latest behind-the-bar reviews for Akatsuki no Yona, chapter 184. Now, there wasn't a whole lot that actually happened necessarily in this chapter. However, so the review might be a little shorter than usual. But I don't know about you guys, but I really like this chapter. I was on the edge of my seat every single time I read one page. I went back, read the first page again, then came back to that page, reread it, and I just kept doing that. Even though this was such a simplistic chapter, I found that it was, I don't know, I just really enjoyed it because at the end, like, it was comedic, it was fun, it was lighthearted for the first half. Then we got into some implications. Then we got into some serious shit. And that's when things started to pick up a little bit, and this is where I believe like we're finally going to start seeing this arc, the alliance arc. Well, we'll call it, because the very beginning of the chapter is simply, all right. So Hawk has officially joined the 13th Company. I mean, people have mixed feelings about that, Hawk being a foot soldier and stuff, and I still have mixed feelings. But I'm being patient. I'm being patient because as a reader of multiple mangas, I know what happens when you jump the gun too quickly, when you assume things, when you disagree with an author's direction based on a couple of chapters. That automatically, like that's too short-sighted. I'm not saying you can't call things and say, you know what, I like this, but I got this nagging feeling about this. I'm not saying you can't do that. Of course, I did it with Seven Deadly Sins and Food Wars. I called out the crap very early on, but I still read and enjoyed the series up until a certain point. Just give this a chance. Just give this a chance because there's been some arcs in this series that is kind of like, okay, a little hit and miss, but overall, Akatsuki no Yona is still there going strong. So, Hawk did join the 13th Company. And he later finds out that kye-sook approved it and everything, and everyone's like, that's clearly the Thunder Beast. That's clearly the Wind Tribe General. I'm a new recruit, and the comedic element is there. And it's fun, and it's nice. But the 13th Company, of course, as Hawk later finds out, is kind of like, they're the chore boys. They're not doing, like, morning exercises and stuff like, and stuff like that. They are let's do the cleanup, let's do the dishes, let's make the breakfast, let's pick up after the other real soldiers, So kye-sook, of course, approved this because it's like, yeah, either he's going to do it and, he's just a chore boy, or he's going to falter and get pissed and then it's going to be over either way. So it's a win-win for kye-sook in that regard. Hawk kind of realizes this. Now, we see that the 13th Company is like, oh, we're making this general do this stuff. And he's just like, yep, I'll take this. Bump, 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 bump. And he's doing all this. And he's like, anybody else need some food? All right, let's clean some dishes. Let's do this. He's totally fine in doing all this stuff. The other thing is that eventually the soldiers sort of look at him and they're kind of like, he's the guy that we kind of, like, we thought he was so far away, but he's so personal. He's such a nice guy. Like, they even acknowledge, like, one guy actually bucks up the courage to say, hey, would you spar with me, new recruit? And he says, yeah, sure, let's spar. No problem. And everyone's like, wow, he's not going, you spar with me? Which, in retrospect, you would think, because as they say, I don't think it was in this first half, at one part of the chapter they say, like, they remember Hawk, the Wind Tribe General, the bodyguard of Yona. They remember him as being this guy who was distant, who was always there, who was the peak of what it was to be a soldier, the peak of power, the peak of, and like untouchable. It's sort of like the people that freak out when they meet a celebrity. I'm not saying that I wouldn't freak out with certain celebrities, but if you're a major fan of someone like, I don't know, if you're a fan of Ryan Reynolds, or if you're a fan of Mila Kunis, or if you're a fan of whoever, Justin Timberlake, if you're a fan of any of these people and you meet them, some people lock up, some people white knuckle it, and they're just like, oh my God, I am your biggest fan, I don't even know what to say, and they stumble and stumble and stumble. Some people are just like, they're still just a person, and Hawk is the latter of these two. He's just a guy. To them, he might be on this pedestal, but he's just a guy who happens to be really strong, but he's just a guy. And once his personality shines through, and we knew this would happen, already the 13th Company are in awe of him, are inspired by him, and they realize, like, you know, he's really good. So they're all just kind of like, all right, well, like, if you, like, he's so nice, like, I'll spar with you too, me too, me too. And of course, Hawk beats, like, no problem, one-handed. They're all on the floor. They're kind of like, oh, this is where Hawk recognizes something, because these new recruits, the 13th Company, is kind of down on themselves. They believe that this is their station. This is their position. Station is a better word, though, not their position. This is their station. And they shouldn't even try to rise above it. Sparring with Hawk seems to have solidified their opinion on this. And Hawk looks onto this, he hears these words, and he says, you know, even a young girl who trains who's never held a weapon before, who trains with a bow every day, can become very skilled. And then they misinterpreted this as, well, are you telling us that if you teach us, we can get stronger and stuff? And though they could through that method, it's not the same way Yona did. And he basically said, no, the way to do it is to be desperate enough to gain said strength. You know, she was so desperate that she needed that strength, you know, and that's, it was a nice callback to, of course, the journey of Yona and how Hawk perceives her journey, right? Now, after this, we see Jodo from the, you know, Judo from the Sky Tribe General, and he is riding along and stuff, and he notices Hawk, and he gallops forward. We cut away for a little bit here to see the dragons have recuperated. Apparently, both Kye and jae-ha have recovered quite easily, and they're remarking that maybe it's Hiru Castle. Maybe Hiru Castle has, you know, speeds up their healing or something. And Suwon appears all of a sudden, and he's like, oh, is that the fact? And, you know, jae-ha doesn't try to give away any information. He's like, it kind of feels like that sometimes. Not really sure, sort of idea. Kind of unease, and so he's like, I stopped for a visit. Then he asks Zeno if he'd like to go for a walk with him. He wants to discuss something. Kye automatically goes, alright, well, we can't leave one of our dragon brothers alone, I'll go with you. And so it's just like, oh no, it's fine, it's fine. And he whispers to Kye, I'm going to go check out, like, what's happening around here. You know, because now you've not only separated Yona from the dragons, you've also separated Hawk from the dragons and stuff. And Yon, wherever Yon is, we don't see him in this chapter. So, you know, the group is kind of split up. So much for an alliance. It seems to be they've been melded back into the society the way, of course, the Sky Tribe wants them to be. After this, so Zeno and Suwon walk off, and I'm kind of ticked, kind of not, because the next part of this chapter, the ending part, is still really, really good. However, I really want to know what Zeno and Suwon are talking about, so chapter 185, you cannot come quick enough. But here we get Jodo basically vs. Hawk, and Hawk's standing there, and Jodo's like, what are you doing here? He's like, doing the duties of the 13th Company. What do you want me to do? It's like, why is someone like you here? Blah, blah, blah. And they're, you know, kind of having a bit of a match of words. That's when Renpa, he shows up, and Renopa, I forget his name, but the leader of the 13th Company shows up, and he basically says, oh, my apologies, General. I forgot to, like, give you my report, but kye-sook approved that this new recruit, Hawk, would show up, and he will now be a member of the 13th Company, blah, 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 blah. And he's just kind of like, no, that's not going to fly. Hawk is basically like, well, this whole alliance was your guys' idea to begin with, so I don't see how I'm doing anything wrong. The people with Jodo, who seem to be the higher-ranked officials around him, they remember when Hawk basically went nuts, saw Suwon, and he was like, they were like, I told you to stop, and he was like, wham! And he basically, casualty, you know, back in, I think it was Iowa or somewhere like that. He basically, I forget where they were, but simply put, he decimated them. Like, he did, like, they were in the hospital, sort of idea, after he basically slammed his fist and his arm into their faces. So they're on the ready to attack, and Hawk's just like, meh. And Hawk has already won the hearts of the 13th Company. You could tell that in this chapter. This was an important chapter. It might have been comedic effect at the very beginning, but we know from past experience that this is the way these type of chapters go, right? Even though it's lighthearted, that's the point, to showcase that Hawk is he's so easily likable. He's so easily trusted, honorable. They're in awe of his strength. They find him hard to approach, but now he's approachable. Their faces are lit up. And right before this, I forgot to mention, they asked, will you spar with us more? And he's like, anytime you guys want. So he's already weaved his way properly. Weave sounds more like a conniving way. Hawk is just being Hawk, and Hawk, of course, is still the general that everybody looked up to. So, this exchange here, however, kind of goes. I'm intrigued here because Jodo would have known about Hawk being around, but him being a member of the Sky Tribe Army, I guess, really touched a nerve with him, sort of idea, right? And here he basically draws his sword and says, the Sky Tribe Army is literally we are basically an extension of the Royal Guard, sworn fealty to protect Suwon, His Majesty. And this isn't bad reasoning. Remember, some of these characters aren't necessarily bad people. They think they're on the right side. And you can argue that this whole situation is a bit of a gray area. They aren't enemies. They aren't friends. They aren't allies. It's a very, of course they look at upon them as enemies, but once again, like Juntai, the Earth Tribe General, and Jodo here, and Suwon, they aren't necessarily evil people, just because they, did what they did. So you're looking on this and you're seeing that Jodo is having none of this, and he brandishes his sword at Hawk and basically says, if you're saying to me that you are going to be a part of it, and once again, this is right, like one wrong person in our army could sow despair upon the ranks, and then we'd be on a crisis, a civil war, something like that, a rebellion. I'm not having it. Any crack in the foundation must be either eliminated, patched, or filled, sort of idea. And he swings his sword at Hawk and basically says, swear to me now, fealty to Suwon. And Hawk just kind of stares him down. They're staring at each other. They're staring each other down. Good staring contest. And I'm like, there is no way Hawk is going to do that. There is no goddamn way Hawk is going to swear fealty to Suwon. This is where we get a very tense moment. And all of a sudden, he kind of sighs, looks down, and he says, I had planned to ask Suwon directly about this. But you know what? I'll ask you instead. Why did you have to murder King Il? And shock. And it's kind of like, he's got a good point. He's like, why did the princess and King Il deserve that level of betrayal? Surely, this could have been talked out. Even if, Hawk has kind of accepted that King Il was leading the country to a path of something that was not nice. That Suwon has done great things for the country. However, as a whole, he doesn't believe in the level of betrayal that was necessary. He just goes, no. There's no reason still to this day that King Il needed to be assassinated. And so he's actually, and Jodo's pushed back a little bit, but then he remarks on the whole, what we've already assumed and knew about. For some reason, where was this stated? I know this was talked about before. Hawk didn't know about it, but somebody did. And sincerely, Princess Yona has not told Hawk about this. So, of course, Yona didn't know previously, but yeah, she was told by Suwon or someone like that after the fact that this is what happened. So, of course, Suwon's father, Yuhan, the war general, the one who was making Koka great again, the Donald Trump of the series, No. That's a terrible comparison because Suwon is a way better person. I don't even care what we find out about him. But he simply states, like, oh, you clearly don't know. Like, he was murdered by King Il. And, like, that's supposed to clear everything up. And Hawk even says, like, wait a minute. First off, I don't believe you. So even if it is true, which I do believe it is, I think that Yuhan was a tyrant, and he was like a Genghis Khan level person, and he was going to end up creating more war and conflict. Like, he was a war god. He was there to fight, and his only purpose was to fight. Sort of like a MacArthur sort of idea, like, oh, let's invade China while we're attacking Korea sort of idea. Like, you know what, maybe you should settle down. Nope, I'm telling you right now, we can do this. And King Il found the only way to stop him. I'm not denying the fact that potentially King Il could have killed his brother. But I believe it was also for the greater good of the kingdom as a whole. And that's why King Il took on this policy of weapons are wrong. I've seen what having a sword can do to his loving. They were probably brothers as tight as this, like Suwon and Hawk, tight as this. But then all of a sudden, he saw what warfare and weapons and conflict, how it could change a person, and that's why King Il went upon this path of no conflict, no weapons. People want land, have the land. It's better that way. So people don't change. Good people become bad people in his eyes because of this. So that could be a potential right there. That's just a theory, but I believe it. Either way, in this chapter, Hawk finally finds out the mystery, the idea that Yuhan was killed by his own brother, King Il. But even at the end of the day, as he says, is like, first of all, I'm not buying it. Second off, even if it was true, you're telling me that Suwon did this whole thing for revenge. And Jodo's response is such bullshit here. He's just like, even if I did say it was something as simple as that, you wouldn't accept it. And Hawk's like Jodo expects that to be a good answer. Like, no, you still can't answer because remember, Jodo still feels shit for the treatment of Yona. Remember, he was like protecting Yona and stuff, and he's just like, I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't move around. And Yona's like, I'm making my own decisions now. You go away. Sort of idea. And he's like, I never wished harm on you, not once. He's still conflicted about that. None of them wanted, because remember, Yona, regardless what King Il stood for and did, Yona was not a part of it. So, and Hawk's number one priority has always been Yona. So he even says, even if that's true, even if all of this is basically true, and he's thinking to himself, he's like, Yona had nothing to do with it. The princess had nothing to do with that revenge, and betraying her in the way that happened is still not acceptable. Jodo knows he's full of shit, that even if all of this was true, and King Il was actually, like, go farther than my theory and say King Il was actually evil and going to doom the kingdom, and he made backhand deals and all this stuff, and Johan was this righteous person, and all that. Even if all that's true, how is any of this acceptable in Hawk's eyes for the betrayal that Yona suffered? It's not. It cannot be. Even if, once again, if King Il is the Donald Trump of the fucking Yona-verse, it still doesn't. It's not even 1 millimeter of acceptance for what happened to Yona. So it's just not. And Hawk's like, I'm not playing that game. I don't give a shit. That doesn't matter. And then, he's standing there. He's reminiscing. He's thinking about Suwon. He's like, so this whole time that we were friends, we were comrades, brothers, like we were seeing entirely different things. The whole time you were focused on revenge while I wasn't. Like, he's just reminiscing about how far apart they must have truly been. That Suwon actually didn't trust Hawk with this information sort of idea. And he's feeling bitter about a lost friendship where he's now even questioning how good of a friendship was it at all, at least in my mind. And then the best bird. Best bird. You've heard of best dog. What a good dog. This is what a good bird. Gofun, who we have seen throughout the series, we know about. The Gofun, the great hunting bird that Suwon and Hawk found and raised together, who has been by Suwon's side this whole time. Only called down, but he has two masters. Not one. Suwon is not Gofun's master. There is a second one in Hawk. And Hawk is finally there, back in the kingdom, back in Hyrule Castle. And Gofun screech. And during this whole exchange, there's a pause, and then we hear the screech. They look up, and everyone's just like, Gofun is coming down for someone other than His Majesty? Wait, what? So they don't know. They don't know that it's actually Hawk's bird. Like I don't know, like animal ownership, that's kind of screwy. But it's a 50-50. There are two owners of Gofun. Gofun does not belong to Suwon exclusively. Hawk's there, and he's just like, you know, and Gofun comes down, and basically, long time no see, you know. And that's the end of the chapter. Really good chapter. I really enjoyed it. I don't know about you guys, but I thought it was really good. The tension in this last part and the expectations of the next chapter are high. I think that this is shaping up to be really good. I don't think we're going to be sitting here for 50 chapters watching Hawk go through the ranks and this alliance is going to stay put. It's not going to stay put. I think this is a temporary sort of idea. This is a transitional arc. I'm not saying this is transitional like a couple of weeks or months, chapters. We're going to be here a while. But once again, like other arcs, this isn't going to be a long-ass arc of this. This is going to be a short transitional arc to get us into the next stage of what this story is going to have for us. So, you know, anybody who is hating on the way everything is going down right now, just give it some time, give it some space. If you need a break and you need to binge it, you know, like 3, 4, 6 months down the road, do that. And I can understand why. But right now, each chapter is still sitting back for me going, yeah, this was good, this was good. I was really hyped. My favorite chapter of the week, I mean, One Piece wasn't even out or anything like that, but my favorite chapter of the week clearly was the Yona chapter here. It was great. But what did you guys all think? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you loved it, did you hate it? Please like, subscribe, and comment as I just said. It's always very much appreciated. This has been Griever. Don't forget to hit that bell notification if you guys want to know every single time I drop a video. And don't forget to check in the text box down below to see the link to my Discord where I talk about not so much Yona very much, not a whole lot of Yona fans in there, but hey, you guys just start jumping in. We can start discussing some more Akatsuki no Yona as I do cover it every single time a chapter is dropped. So be sure to join that. Great bunch of people in there too. So this has been Griever with your Behind the Bar views for chapter 184, and we will see you back here next time. Don't forget to drink responsibly, as always.